You make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.
Good morning, everybody. I believe we're live here. Computer says we're live when we're double checking everything. But anyway, just bear with us here for just make sure. Yeah, it looks like we are, at least on YouTube. So everybody, good morning. We are live. We have a new face over here. Well, not a new old face or an old new face.
I'll take it being called a new face. I like that.
So anyway, welcome to Get It Right Texoma with the trio. That's myself, Terry McAdams, Trey, and of course, Mike Hendren, our great friend for many years that got us started in our professional broadcast career.
Our podcast partner in the sky.
Yes, there you go. But anyway, Mike Hendren, of course. We are here to inform and hopefully entertain you about the news, whether it be local, international, galactic, or whatever. That's what Mike used to say. Interplanetary, whatever. So, but anyway, you've got the next thing here.
Oh, yeah. We always have great guests when we come on. And then today we have a special guest in, Steve Garner. A lot of people will recognize Steve. He was in the car business, as they say, in Texoma for many, many years, but also very active in a lot of local politics and local charities and that sort of thing. Of course, Lake Wichita Project is probably the one that you were the most involved in. I know you were involved in a lot of stuff.
And I am still involved in it.
Still, and so now you can see him sometimes on the social space.
Yes.
As he's doing some work with Jackie Hager at Hager Communications, which is a great show. If you don't get a chance to see it, it comes on Sunday nights on Channel 6.
Yep.
And so check it out. They always have a guest on, and it's like a video version of a more upscale version of what we're doing here. It really is. I mean, it's very very similar to what we're doing here. So, but it's
except
great.
They actually are professionals at it,
and their production value is good. But they do a great job. Yeah. So we recommend you check that out.
Right.
You can check us here out every Saturday or every Friday morning.
Oh, you're starting Saturdays now? Oh my. Okay.
Every Friday morning from 7:30, and then generally we'll have a guest that comes on at 8 o'clock. And, of course, today we have Representative James Frank coming.
Right. That's the spot over there to Steve's right. But, and also keep an eye or participate with us because we can take your comments on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you can, say hello or whatever, I'll be keeping an eye on those, and we'll do some interaction if you got any questions or whatever.
Make sure the comments are nice because Terry's kind of sensitive, and you don't want to hurt his feelings.
I know, and hey. But anyway, we'll get those notifications. We'll keep an eye on this. But you can always, of course, catch this. It'll be archived, if you will, on both Facebook and on YouTube. So you can go back and watch it, share it. And if you missed it live, then you certainly can watch it.
And absolutely. And then we recommend you go on and look at our complete archive. Yeah. We've been doing this for over a year now.
We have over 100 episodes.
Yeah, so there's a lot of great episodes. So.
Yeah. So anyway, local. It's brought to you by sponsors. That's Eddie Hills Fun Cycles, 401 North Scott, and
since
MacTech.
1966.
There you go, and MacTech Solutions here at 4020 Ray Road and Finishing Touch Plaza, where we take care of your Apple stuff. We both sell and service Apple products, and they do motorcycles and
ATVs, side-by-sides,
mowers. Yeah. So come on down and support your local businesses, and we appreciate all the support you do provide us. So. What do we got going?
Well, local restaurant focus, we always do. And this week, and I think we're doing McBride's again. I think the last time you were here, McBride's was our local restaurant focus. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't do that on purpose because I had set this. I have a schedule.
That's okay.
That I put these in.
Look at this new thing I got.
Yeah,
there you go. So McBride's Land and Cattle. McBride's downtown, as a lot of people say. It has been there for a long time. I don't know how many years it's been. I think it was built in the 60s or the 70s.
There may be a history here. I'll look it up, but you go ahead and tell us.
But it's a great locally owned family restaurant. It was part of the McBride family at one time. It's not owned by McBride now, but they've continued the great tradition of steaks and that sort of thing. And I'm going to tell you, and I've said this over and over. I said it privately. I've said it publicly. I've eaten at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. I've eaten at Bob's Steak and Chop House. I've eaten at Saltgrass many times. I've eaten at so many places, and I don't think you get a better steak than you do at McBride's downtown. And you pay a whole lot more at a lot of those places.
Yeah, you do. You sure
do. Well, so we got, there's the hours right there, served Monday through Friday, 11 to 1:30 for lunch.
Right.
And they got a specific menu for that. And, of course,
then they also have dinner service as well.
Yep.
I don't know.
I'm just following there.
But they also do dinner service. And I believe they're open all day on Saturdays.
Okay. So.
And I actually talked to Ford Swanson yesterday on another deal. It's kind of ironic that that's the sponsor today, and it was the same sponsor I was here before. And I got to talk to Ford Swanson, who owns the restaurant now. I'm just going to put a plug in because I love the sauteed mushrooms there. One of my favorite sides to get.
Yep.
When I go, I always get those because they add so much to the steak for me.
Okay. There you go.
All right.
Pro tip.
All right. Well, then we'll go back to that view there. Hey, look at there. See? So,
so the other view was a lot nicer. You had a lot less ugly in the screen.
Well, hey,
Well, local happenings. There's several things going on. The Ranch Roundup is coming out, and that is a Texoma staple. And what people don't realize is the Ranch Roundup concept started right here in Texoma. Mm-hmm. And there's Ranch Roundups all over the country. It's unlike a regular rodeo. It is real cowboys, real ranch cowboys doing real ranch type stuff. So you're not going to see the bull riding and that sort of thing, but it's great to go watch. It's a great family event the way they have it set up. It's going to be Friday, July 18th, so that's going to be next Friday, and then Saturday, July 19th. Both nights, the Ranch Roundup starts at 7 p.m. It's at the K. Yeager Coliseum. And on Friday night, after the Ranch Roundup, at 9:15, Josh Weathers will be in here.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And your ticket for your Friday night Ranch Roundup gets you into the concert as well.
Nice.
So Josh Weathers is a country music artist. He's a hardcore rap. No, I'm just kidding. So gangster rap. No, he's a country artist and pretty well known and doing a good job. So
okay.
And you had something you were going to bring up that an event that's coming up here in Wichita Falls.
I do. Thanks for asking. The Republican Party of Wichita County is hosting a fundraiser in August the 28th, which is a Thursday night. It's going to be held at the warehouse downtown. And this is going to be our fundraiser for the midterm elections. And we're really excited about two of the featured participants in that. Trey Taylor, country artist, you just mentioned one. Trey Taylor is going to be our featured music act, but more importantly for us, for the Republican Party, Abraham George, who is the chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. And we are really excited that he made time out of his very busy schedule to come, and he's going to speak about the importance of continuing to get our registered voters to go out and vote, but more importantly, and dovetailing into that, is how critical it is that we continue to enlist new Republican voters in the rolls as our state changes, and we as Texans want to continue to maintain a red status, which is a good conservative majority in the state of Texas, in Wichita County. We need to make sure that as new people move to Texas because of the great business climate here, the great reasons to live here are because we have conservative values, because we do want limited government, because we do want to make sure that the things that we hold dear continue to be held dear by our legislators, by our local legislators and our state legislators. So it's really, really important. And we're excited. That's going to be on August 28th. And you can reach out to me, Steve Garner. My cell phone number is 940-781-1920. You can go to the Wichita County Facebook page. You can go to
Wichita County Republican Party.
Yeah, the Wichita County Republican Party Facebook page. You can go to our website, and there will be a link on there. There'll be a QR code where you can buy your tickets. And we have tables available all the way from $3,000 down to $750, and then we have individual tickets available as well.
Okay, sounds good. So it'd be a night. And one more time, what's the date?
It's August the 28th. Okay. That's a Thursday night.
And we'll promote that again. If you would mind shooting me a text after this and remind me, and we'll promote that as it gets closer again.
Sure. And thanks for letting me share that.
Absolutely. One other thing real quick before we get to the news, the Texoma NextStar Sports Awards banquet was held last night.
Yes.
It's a great event, and I love going. I went again last night. If you did not go, you can catch it on. There's going to be a replay on Texoma. It's Channel 3, Channel 18 locally, KFDX and Fox are where they replay the banquet.
Right.
And it's a really neat thing. There's a lot of great athletes are honored at that, and local athletes. And it's one of those things. It's really nice to see these local athletes get honors and things that they deserve. And there's some scholarships that are given out, and there's a Hall of Fame, which is great. And we always enjoy doing that. Last night, the Skip Hicks, who played football at Burt Burnett, and went on to play NFL. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then also the 2000 Rider boys soccer team that was the state champion was the first state champions in soccer in Wichita Falls, and also the first state championship of Rider.
Yeah.
And a group of those kids were there, and Kenny Catney came back to town for that and everything. So it was really a neat thing. So you'll have to check out and see when they replay it. I think they're going to replay it on TV. But then it's also available online.
Sure.
NextStar Sports Banquet.
Okay.
All right.
Cool. Well,
talk about news?
News. Yeah, the intense flooding, of course. Because that started the morning we. We were on Thursday. We recorded and then it played it on Friday, so we weren't here live. But so that 30 feet in. How long? I mean, in a matter of hours. Yes.
I have a friend that I checked on who has a motorcycle dealership and a ranch there, and I shot him a message, and I'm like, "Hey, how's everything there?" And he said, "Well, I'm actually in Rockport. I'll have to. I'm going to go back and check our damage." He said, "But my neighbor from the ranch did report to us that our brand new 1.5-acre lake filled up 8 million gallons of water in 6 hours."
Jiminy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
There's a place that my wife and I like to stay. It's an RV park, and it actually is right there outside of Kerrville on the banks of the Guadalupe. And we always get a spot that you back up to the Guadalupe, and I guarantee that place is underwater because it's probably 30 feet
if
down
not,
from the
if
highway.
not gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
But just tragic. Over 90 people have ended up dying in the thing, including some kids that were at a summer camp there, and it's just
and there's a lot of tragic, right? And I don't know what to think about all that. I mean, they're complaining. A lot of people are, of course, trying to blame. They want to blame everybody for stuff.
Let's quit the blame shit. Let's have compassion for the people that have lost things. Yeah. Let's worry about rebuilding. Now we can go back and look at.
There's time for that later.
Step back, because the fact is, it's not going to flood tomorrow. Step back, look at the overall thing that happened, and see if there are things in the process that we could have solved. Yeah. Part of the problem was it happened in the middle of the night.
Well, yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning, which is basically most people are asleep. Yeah. If that happened during the day, there's probably far fewer people that would have died. Yeah. But it's just things like that are tragic. But you're right. It's everybody wants to jump out there and put their mug in front of a microphone and start talking about blaming this and blaming that. Is like, cut that crap out.
Yeah, that's too bad. But anyway, but prayers for all families and everyone that lost somebody. And
I think that's one of the things that we should each focus on is the power of prayer, the power of action. And right now, what those people in Central Texas need is prayer, and they need action to help them dig out from the mess. I mean, this was an act of God, and anybody that wants to blame someone else just doesn't understand the power of nature, and that's what this was. This was just like a hurricane that hits the coast, just like a monsoon in the Far East. This was an act of God, and it's unfortunate, but we need to be focused on prayer for the people that are surviving and for helping them, as you said, reconstruction and getting them dug out from this massive mess.
Yeah. It's going to change that part of the country for a long period of time. It's decades. I mean, they're rebuilding, and it possibly will change the face of it forever in some ways. So anyhow, let's
right. Well,
like I said, thoughts and prayers for the people in Kerrville and all the people that are affected there.
So what else is happening
around? Well, kind of wanted to go over the legislative update.
Okay.
So kind of pulled this from a friend of mine who's a lobbyist in down there in Austin, one of the top lobbyists in Austin, actually. And he does a legislative update. And so I didn't put everything down because I wanted to put it down into one page because his is quite extensive. But so I just pulled out some things that I thought were the most important. If you want to check it out, you can always go online and find your own legislative update. But here you go. More than 8,700 bills were filed this year, and over 1,200 were passed. And the governor actually vetoed 28 of those bills this year. And, of course, in state legislature, real quickly, and James will be here, and he can talk to it more, but you almost have like three parties down there right now. You have the Republican Party that's in power, but they kind of have two different factions, and then the Democrats. So it's kind of an unusual situation. But the state budget, S. Bill 1 enacts a two-year balanced state budget. Texas works on a biennium system because the state legislature only meets every 2 years, which is fine. If you're trying to get something done, yeah, it kind of stinks. But by the same token, if you want small government,
which we do, it's nice.
Right. But let's see, 2-year state budget with a record $338 billion in overall spending, and the legislature left $3.9 billion in projected revenue unspent and almost $24 billion parked in the state's rainy day fund. So Texas the economy is doing well. I don't know that I'm not feeling our local economy doing all that great right now, but we're not in a high growth area.
Right.
But there are several places in the state that are high growth areas, and those places are just booming.
Yep. In fact, they're trying to curb some of the growth in Dallas-Fort Worth, and that they don't. I mean, there's those small towns that are like the Frisco's and the, of course, Plano.
Well, Frisco's blown up, but Prosper.
Yeah.
Have you seen what's going on in Salina?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
there's a Salina, Texas. I guess I didn't know there was.
Yeah,
I know there's a Salina, Kansas.
No, there's Salina, Texas.
Last year,
it's up by Anna and Melissa.
They approved a 4,000 home construction project in Salina. Salina, a population of 14,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
4,000 homes. How many people are in a home? 4.2, 3.8, whatever that number is.
Yeah.
4,000. That's going to double the size of Salina.
Yeah, in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
Well, my youngest daughter, just bought a house in Princeton, Texas. A lot of people don't know where that is. It's right on Lake Lavon. So it's right over in that mess right over there. Wow. And the house she just bought, it's a new build. In fact, when she signed the contract, it wasn't even finished. She just got moved in. But everything around her is new builds, and there's 2 or 3 housing projects that are close to her that are new builds. Yeah. And by the way, they're not building crap box houses.
No.
I mean, your starter house. These are starter homes that are in the $250,000 range. Which down there, that sounds expensive in Wichita Falls, and it would be for Wichita Falls. But down there, you can't buy a new house at all.
Yeah.
And by the way, when I say $250,000 house, I'm not talking about a mansion, and I'm not talking about marble and travertine and stuff like that. I'm talking about a step up from contractor grade appliances, a step up from contractor grade finishes, and that sort of stuff. It's a nice additional or a nice starter home, but that's what they're trying to build.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we need some of those in Wichita Falls.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Property tax relief. So under SB 4 and SJR 2, Texas voters can approve, and we need to talk to James about this. This is an automatic thing that happened. I think it has to go to a vote.
Yes.
Can approve raising the general homestead exemption from $100,000 to $140,000. And under SP 23 and SJR 85, it can approve raising the exemption age of 65 or people with disabilities from $100,000 to $200,000. So there's some property tax relief that's coming our way as long as people vote for it. And I can't imagine, at least locally, I can't imagine our people voting against property tax relief. They can also, voters can also approve to increase the business inventory tax exemption from $2,500 to $125,000.
Oh,
that's massive.
Wow,
that's massive.
Well, okay.
That's aimed at small business. That is aimed directly at small businesses, because you don't have to have much of a business if your gross receipts are over $2,500. But you have to have, you have to have some business. There's a lot of businesses out there, people who have like one person or maybe 2 people have a business together, and their gross receipts are less than $125. And also what it does for people like Terry and I, who obviously have gross receipts that are higher than that,
Well, is that gross receipts, or is that the actual business inventory value is $125,000?
Well, it might be the value, but it's also based on a lot of it's based on what you come in. But the fact is, at least that first $125,000 we won't pay taxes on.
Right.
We'll pay taxes on what's higher than that.
Right.
But at least the first part we won't.
I think one of the things that's really important to me, and I hope your viewers and listeners pay attention to, it's one of the wonderful things about the state of Texas. Limited government, limited taxation. This is something that can pass in a conservative environment. That's why I'm grateful to live here. That's why I'm grateful things like this are put before the voters, because the voters in this environment absolutely want to do that. That's why we absolutely have to keep Texas a conservative bastion of people.
Makes sense. HP2 provided public schools with $8.5 billion in new funding for teacher and staff pay raises, early learning, special education, armed campus security, and other priorities. And SB2, which, by the way, HB means House Bill, SB means Senate Bill, creates an education savings account to allocate public money to pay for private school tuition and expenses of around $10,500 for most students, $2,000 for homeschoolers, and up to $30,000 for special education. This is where Representative Frank and I have disagreed some. I am not against people's tax money going towards private education in principle. What I am against is when private education and homeschool entities do not have to follow the same guidelines that public school does. Because what you do is you create an unfair advantage.
Yep.
So public school, if somebody shows up to your door, you have to educate them. They could be the most disruptive student in the world. You have no choice. If you have a private school or a charter school or something like that, and somebody shows up to your door and they're a complete ass and they're causing problems in your school, you could boot them out. Now, what I don't want to happen is I don't want to say, okay, the homeschoolers and the private schools don't get this. What I want to do is say, let's let public education boot people out. I came up with a plan 10 years ago, right after I got off the school board. I think, and I don't think this will ever happen because I don't think anybody has the guts to do this. I think that a school should be allowed to refuse service to up to 5% of their population. Not all of them. And it wouldn't be like the principal doesn't like you, so you get thrown out. I'm talking about a due process system where there's documentation of why we don't want you here anymore. There's documentation of how disruptive you are. And it's going to have to go before somebody other than the school district. Yeah. Maybe the school board, maybe a judge or somebody. But at some point, there are kids that are so disruptive and they cause so much chaos in these schools and they create chaos for other people. And they take away from your kid's learning environment. That's the thing. When I say this, people say, that's not fair. Bullshit. It's not fair that my kid can't learn because your kid's an asshole. I mean, that's the way I look at it. And it's one of those deals. So, and I just say up to 5%. Because if you can get, and you don't have to get rid of 5%. Maybe it's 2% in your school. Maybe it's 3%. Maybe it's one kid. But the fact is, if you got rid of your worst 5%, and go ask any administrator, and say, if we could just wave a wand, and you got rid of your worst 5%, how much better would the learning environment be in your school? And it would be exponential.
Yeah.
But it won't happen because you have to have guts to be able to do that, and I don't think our legislature has enough guts to do it as a whole. I'm not saying individuals don't.
Right.
You know, I think James would possibly at least have the guts to talk about it or think about it. I think David Spiller, who's going to be in with us next week, would. But overall, there's too many people out there that I just don't think they have the fortitude.
All right.
Anyhow, HB 6 provides public schools with more flexibility and discipline disruptive and violent students. I really don't know. I want to get with James and find out more about that one. HB 1481 requires school districts to adopt policies restricting students' cell phone access during the school day.
Yes.
Big.
Can I vote yes twice?
Yes.
Do I get to do that?
Oh, wait. Well, in past,
this is already
maybe
been enacted. Now, I'm going to go back to this. Hate to toot my own horn here. I came up with this when I was on the school board. Now, I've been off the school board for 10 years in Wichita Falls. I was on the board for 12 years. and it wasn't when the last year I was on the school board. This was probably about 2010, because there was actually a quote in the newspaper. That's a thing that used to come to your house that had printed words on it that's basically gone now.
Used to be this big, and now it's this big.
Yeah.
And it's that.
And anyhow, there was a quote, because I said we kept hearing about how disrupted the cell phones were in schools. And I said, take them out. And there was a lot of administrators said, we can't do that. And I said, sure you can. Sure you can. You enact a rule. Yep. I mean, you go to Disney, you can't take your cell phone around. There's a locker. There's certain places you have to put a locker. You go to like Universal Studios and stuff like this. There are secure places. There are systems out there that are secure places for people's personal storage. And you could easily do that in a school.
Yeah.
But I said then we should limit cell phone use in schools. And I was told, you can't do it. And I said, well, I'm just telling you, it's causing a myriad of problems, and it's only going to get worse.
Yep.
And
it has.
It has gotten worse. So, by the way, that was probably 2010. The dumb guy from North Scott, the dumb motorcycle guy, stood at a dais of the school board and said, we need to push for getting rid of our cell phones, or taking our cell phones and limiting them in school.
Yep.
And that, look it up in the Times Record News. It is in there. There was a quote from me there. So it's documented.
Perfect. All right.
Our
You
special guest is in.
You finally won.
There, yeah.
Well,
I was also, by the way, and Mike could testify on this, and did for many years. I was the first person that on News Talk 1290, and I mean of the local people, the national people, I was the first person that predicted that Donald Trump would win in 2016. I walked in the day after the second debate, and Mike and I had a talk, and I said, Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. And he said, think so? And I said, yep, I know so. I said, I watched what he did. He's getting better and better. And I said, and combined with, he's going to be going against the most hated politician of our generation in Hillary Clinton. I said, he has name recognition. He's coming up in the polls like a rocket, and he's going against a very hated person. I said, that's going to be a combination for him to win.
And he did.
And he did. So,
cool.
Want to bring James in?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Come on over. We're live.
We're actually live.
Yeah, we are live. We are doing it live now.
Yeah, it's not Memorex anymore.
No. So come on in. Yes.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, James. Good to see you.
All right. Well, so good deal. So we are.
So now we're joined. Now we are live here and live streaming. Of course, it'll be recorded. So State Representative James Frank is with us, and we appreciate you.
Have you got a booster seat? I feel like a midget. Wait a minute, can I say that word? I feel like a small person.
Yeah. Well, you know what's weird is I'm 6 foot tall, and I'm not usually the third smallest person in a group of four, but I am in this one. Yeah. Terry's taller than me, and James is obviously
You're vertically
taller.
challenged, that's all.
Yeah.
So how tall are you?
6'4.5".
Okay.
I was 6'5", but my knees aren't
going
as straight as they were.
That's
so
what
starting
happens,
to go
isn't it?
down.
Yeah.
I'm only 6'2", so you know.
Yeah.
But oh well.
I've seen 6'2" when I look up.
So we were actually going over a legislative update, talking
Very
about
good.
that a little bit.
Well, talk to me.
Yeah,
Well, first off, you represent this area.
Yep, 14 counties.
14 counties. So real quickly, what are the counties?
West Wichita, Archer Clay is kind of the eastern side, and then really I go out west. In fact, me and the Lubbock guy share a border basically. So I've got 14 counties heading out that way on north on the Red River.
Wow. So you go way west and he comes way east.
Yes.
Sounds good. So session is over, obviously, but
is it really?
Yeah, the regular session is over.
Yeah, I was about to say, except that we're going back on July 21st.
And it looks like a pretty long agenda. Is that normal to have that many things on a special session agenda?
It has gotten to be normal. It's kind of the new normal. It's really, and I don't mean to sound disappointed, but I am, and I have a family vacation scheduled right about then. But it has become a little more normal. If there's a reason to have one, the governor is very strong in a special session because he gets to determine what's on the agenda, and we can always not pass something on that. That is fine, but he gets to determine the agenda. He's down there anyway, so hey.
Yeah, he lives there.
Yeah, I mean, he lives there. He's paid full time, right? Like so it has become fairly normal. It's supposed to be used for emergencies, and it's become kind of just an extra session.
Yeah, because the whole concept of having state legislature that's part-time and only meets every 2 years, there's a reason behind that.
Yeah,
right?
and the challenge is, and I'm very fortunate I can do it, but there's a lot of people that end up getting out because they can't do it. Because it's one thing to do 140 days every 2 years. I still have people that don't realize that it's a part-time gig, right? They're like they'll see me in town and go, "Hey, James, good to see you in town." I'm like, I'm almost always here.
Yeah.
Like
I live here.
I live here. It's there that it is unusual. So you go down there that 140 days, and then it's supposed to be 19 months, and so but it's become an issue. But the only reason that we're doing this, the main reason we're doing it, is a lack of communication during session. This was SB 3. It wasn't a surprise.
Right.
Typically, if the governor has an issue, all he has to do is call up whoever the bill author is and go, "Hey, I've got an issue with this or this. I'm going to veto it unless you change this." You can do that. But at the same time, that's his prerogative.
Wow. So in the special session starts when?
June 21st. So Monday,
July
a week. I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. July 21st, a week from Monday.
Wow.
A week from Monday.
And you don't know, and when you go to special session, you don't really know how long it's going to be.
Well, it can't be more than 30 days. However, if you don't get done in those 30 days, you can call another special session, another special session, another special session. I would say, and I spoke with the speaker yesterday, and he has a little better idea of what all's going to happen. I think this one can be done in 2 weeks, because really, if you look at it, other than the redistricting, which is a big issue, although that will only be the congressional maps, but that'll be a very politically charged issue when you get redistricting. All of the other bills have already been considered. So if you're just tweaking them, it won't take very long to get them through the process. They'll be filed on Monday, get assigned to the committee. You'll have a committee hearing, but the committees will have already heard the bills. Like the only one I've seen that I'm on, HB4, was HB4, the STAR test, changing the STAR test and getting rid of that and replacing it. That one I was really disappointed. That got through the House, got through the Senate, and then died in conference committee with some misunderstanding between the superintendents that were working on it, and I think misunderstandings. And I think that one has been put on the agenda, but it already had a conference committee report. So it was through both houses and agreed to.
It was there. It was there.
Yeah. It was like at the finish line, and it got fumbled. So that can be done fairly quickly, right? You'll still have to have a committee hearing because it's a brand new bill. It won't be HB4. It's a brand new bill. That's the way it works. Everything is dead once session is over, but that brand new bill will be filed, and likely it'll be filed very similar to what was already
conference.
Right. Yeah, what was agreed to in conference will likely be there. May have some tweaks, and there's also a good chance that the vast majority of that is done before we even get to session, at least with the bill authors, and then you can always have amendments on the floor and that kind of stuff. But if it's well done, it can be done. Could be done in a week. Probably will take 2 weeks.
And chances are most people that formed an opinion at that time because they had plenty of time have formed that opinion, and they're not going to change their mind.
Right. Yeah. Although there are so many bills that are going through during session, sometimes it is hard to form much of an opinion. It's a little easier now when things you have only 18 bills or whatever we'll have to look at. It's a little easier to form the opinion and have discussion. So, but I think the biggest issue that's going to create challenge will be the redistricting of the congressional seats.
Yeah, because we as we reported earlier on, there were over 8,700 bills filed, and over 1,200 passed.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. When you can't possibly know every detail of every bill.
Yeah, you know the basics of the bill when you vote on it. And some of the bills are road naming bills. And,
exactly. Yeah.
They're important, but they're pretty local in nature. And in 3 seconds you can go, I don't have a problem with.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with this. Move on. And then some of them obviously are more challenging. But you know what you're voting on. It's just not. It's not honestly. It's not like Congress where you're not reading the bills. It's just not. But the volume does get a little crazy.
Is the 28 bills being vetoed by the governor? Is that a normal average?
I'd have to look back at the stats. It's not high.
Okay.
I know he has done 50 before, but I couldn't. I don't know that I've looked back at.
So, but it wasn't shocking to you when you saw that. Okay.
I mean, what was the number you said? 1,200, and you only vetoed 28.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the reality is, again, to me, there shouldn't be many vetoes, and there certainly shouldn't be any veto surprises. If they're doing the job of communicating, you shouldn't ever get a bill vetoed that's like, oh, I didn't know that. There should have been a call, and I've had one of those. in my career, the governor's office calls and says, hey, he didn't like this bill, and you have a choice. You can push it. You can continue to push it through knowing that he's going to veto it, or you give him the choice of either vetoing it, or sometimes it's a threat. He doesn't really want to veto it, but he wants you to stop.
Right.
So I don't know how many of those. Thankfully, none of the 28 were mine.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So
that's a good thing.
What would you say it was your top priorities, and that you felt really good about what you got done this year, you kind of more personally on your level?
Yeah, on my level, there were a number of local bills that we did for Shepherd that were the advance notification for the wind for any of the wind turbines going up. There was it was a small bill but an important bill that allows the NATO pilots' kids to start school based on their start dates in their country as opposed to our start dates, which lets them start a little earlier. Again, that's one of those really small bills, but it matters to them. They're not behind in school when they go back, and it's something that was important to the military.
Can I comment on that? Because I had direct access to comments about that. I was fortunate enough to go to Washington, D.C. With the Chamber of Commerce earlier this year, and we got to visit with the Saudi Arabian contingent while we were there at the Saudi embassy. And they could not have been more excited about the opportunity. This was before it was passed into to law. But they were so excited. We had Dr. Haney from MSU was with us, and she was very familiar with this, and she shared that with them. And because of what you mentioned about their children being behind, they were really hesitant about bringing more dependents into this environment because of that. They were thrilled that was not going to be an issue. So James, as a member of the community, that is an awesome.
Explain this to me then. I'm a little. I understand something about the dates, but how does?
Well, there's state law of when somebody can start school,
right, based on their age.
Yeah, and it's based on a, I think, June, July. It's a summer.
Right.
They start 6 to 8 months earlier. They start based on the
okay, because I remember the joke about my mom was that they induced labor so I could be born on August 31st to meet the requirements so I could start first grade.
And again, I will say this, two things. One, brag on several people. Senator Hagenbuch did a great job because for a number of reasons, it got over the Senate late. He did a great job picking it up. He wasn't aware of it, but I said, hey, can you pick this up and get this through? And he got it through, so great on him. But also people like Steve and others in the community, I didn't know that was a need. This is the way representative democracy works, right? Like, I didn't know that need existed. Mm-hmm. It required, I don't know, Steve and President Haney and others at Shepherd to say, hey, this is a need we have. Yeah. Here's a law we need changed, and it's my job to change the law. There's no way for me to know all of that stuff, right? Unless somebody, that's the way it's supposed to work. So it really does require. Sometimes people go, well, why don't they change that? Why don't they change this? Well, you kind of have to tell people. Like, there's no way. You don't magically all of a sudden go, oh, I know everything that needs to be done in the state.
Yeah. You can't possibly.
You can't possibly.
You can't. I tell employees this all the time. I can't fix problems I don't know anything about.
Yep.
And that's exactly right. And there's no way you would have known. No. You don't have Saudi Arabian children here at NATO.
Yeah. And so it's really that communication is really critical. And I think most of the times we get it, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes I'm not getting communication. Sometimes we don't listen. As well as we should.
And a bill like that is so important to a small group of people, but it doesn't hurt anybody.
Right.
It's kind of it makes a difference. Yeah, it's not a huge contingency, but it's very important to a small group, and it doesn't hurt anybody.
Yeah,
so why not do it?
And it's very important to Shepherd.
Exactly.
And to this area. So none of those were huge, but I think they were important, and I appreciate your comments. The bigger bills that I worked on really were the healthcare bills. Healthcare in this country, we've talked about it, is twice as expensive as it should be. Literally, you're paying $2 for every dollar you should be spending. If you compare us to the rest of the first world, their healthcare results are as good or better, but we're paying twice as much, whether it's drugs that are manufactured in the U.S. that sell over here for $100 or for $500 and sell over there for $100 because we don't allow competitors. FDA doesn't allow importation of drugs, which is crazy. We started trying to work on that. something we can only challenge at the state level. We can't do that. That needs to be done federally. But there's a number of things in terms of, we have a lot of monopolies around that can charge as much as they want. Nobody's really paying attention to how much they charge. There's a bunch of different, there's a complete lack of transparent pricing. It's kind of funny. If you want lower prices, the first thing you have to be able to know is what it costs.
That's right, what the prices are.
And it is amazing how, I don't care whether it's the insurance companies or the providers themselves, seem like will do absolutely whatever they can to make sure nobody knows how much it costs. Yeah. And so we did a number of things in that area. Also lost on a number of those. There's a tremendous amount of money in having inefficient pricing.
Shocking.
No,
I can't believe that.
I actually got crushed on the bills that tried to bring any kind of competition to keep. If you look at healthcare, there's been so much consolidation, whether it's hospitals or New York investment firms buying up all the practices, doctors' practices. We used to have about 75% independent physicians. Now it's almost 25. Almost all the physicians have been taken out of the market. And then, anyway, that consolidation comes at a price. Everybody says economies of scale, but economies of scale typically mean I get to make more money and you have no pricing protection. So, anyway, but we did get a couple really, I think, very good bills passed. The hospital pricing transparency, you were talking about my bills, the hospital pricing transparency that we did last session, we then put on all other medical providers this session. We did a bill prohibiting hospital pricing discrimination above a certain amount. If a person goes in and doesn't have insurance, they can pay 2 or 3 times more than somebody with insurance. We don't allow that in anything else.
Yeah.
There is no other industry that we allow somebody to charge you $1,000, you $4,000, and you $2,000 for the same thing. Right. But it's kind of become common. It is commonplace in this industry, and everybody thinks it's okay, and I just don't. You provide a service, you can charge whatever you want for the service, but I don't understand why you should be able to. Again, we call it price gouging in any other context. And in healthcare,
and it's illegal in some cases.
That's right.
There are some situations you can go to jail for price gouging.
Yeah, and so but it's become the norm. I'm not accusing anybody of illegal behavior. It's just not.
Right.
We need to stop thinking of that as normal. We all need to kind of step back at healthcare and go, this is not normal. Well, and we're going to end up as a single payer state or a single payer if we don't address healthcare, because what we have is worse in many ways than a single payer. I know that sounds terrible. The market will work if we actually have a market. All right. But we don't have, we don't have transparent pricing. You don't know what it costs. Often you don't have competition. So even if you know how much it costs, if you only have one place to get it, you just know how bad you're getting taken advantage of.
There you go.
And then the last is a lot of times the customer doesn't really care how much it costs. Like when you look at the way the plan is set up, your deductible only tells you whether or not you're going to get the service. It doesn't help you shop it at all. You don't care whether it's a $40,000 surgery or $20,000.
Right. And
you don't care at all.
Well, and it's complicated because imagine all of our grandparents or whatever that we've helped through Medicare and all of that. There's no way to know unless you scrutinize those explanation of benefits, those EOBs. And the same thing with the TRICARE, because I'm a retiree from the Air Force. But anyway, one other real quick thing on that. So how much can you guys do at the state level, though, without the federal government allowing for a competition across the borders?
Well, I think one of the things, I am maybe the MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again, is probably the part I am most excited about this administration, challenging really just the status quo on everything, on everything, particularly healthcare related, to go, hey, this is not normal. Yeah. And I think people are kind of waking up and going, well, you know what, this is not normal. It's not normal to price this way. It's not normal to one of the bills that we passed and that you can do at the state level. I had a procedure a few years ago. Actually, it was a heart procedure, but it's arthroscopic. It's all good. It was arrhythmia. Paid $80,000. The state of Texas paid $80,000 for 23 hours. Okay, we have a consultant in our company, healthcare consultant, and I asked for the average price in the state. Average price is less than $40,000. And I'm saying, like, well, why? I called the state and I said, well, why did you? And this is, it was billed at $142,000.
It was negotiated
down to $80,000.
What a bargain, right?
Yeah. What a bargain, right? And I'm like, well, and it didn't. I paid my deductible, so it wasn't. But I'm looking at it and I'm very interested in this. I'm like, well, why is it that the state of Texas, one of the biggest employers in the state, if not the biggest, paid this much money? And the answer was, basically, well, we got to be a network, so we got to take whatever pricing it is. And I was like, what? And I said, so why didn't you tell me, hey, if I'll go somewhere else, I'll waive your deductible? You know, if you'll go to a $40,000 place, that's, by the way, just as good. I'm not asking people to go to some, you know,
Joe's
mechanic.
Fidget Shop. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's almost no correlation between.
You guys smoking a cigarette. Come on in here. Lay down on the table. Let me get you.
There is. It's another discussion, but there is no correlation between price and quality in healthcare. It's all pricing power. But so I said, why didn't you offer me maybe waive my deductible if I would go to one of the lower cost providers? I understand if you can't negotiate with somebody. And the answer was it's against state law.
Really?
Yeah. So it's not now. That bill got signed into law. It's not against state law for an insurer to say, hey, by the way, we can offer you some incentives to go to shop. Now there is an incentive. And there's some requirements on them. They can't self-deal. They have fiduciary duty when they do it, but they can encourage you to go somewhere else. Before, they didn't have the ability to do that.
That makes sense.
So it's
that
but
really
it's very
catch on. If that catches on, that could be huge.
It is done in some places. The problem is, again, there is so much money. Think about it. Like if you're a provider and you don't get pushback on pricing, is that a good thing or bad thing for you?
Yeah,
that's a great thing.
It's a great thing. I mean, it's an awesome thing.
It would have been nice to sell every car at Sticker, right?
Oh my God!
No, not at Sticker. At Sticker, what you do is but in the medical world, what you do is you take a $40,000 car, and you charge $160,000 as your rack rate. And then you come off 50%, and you tell them what a great bargain you got at $80,000.
It's like the furniture when you buy furniture. Because
remember,
it's always the MSRP and our price.
It's not the providers. I mean, the insurers have their issues. There's a lot of perverse incentives, mostly that have been put in place at the federal level. Yeah. There's a thing called medical loss ratio that makes insurers not really want to push back on pricing because of, it's complicated. But at the end of the day, I always say, look, if you want to get simple with health care, you got to ask, do you have transparent pricing? Because if you don't know what it costs, you're losing. Yeah. If you're not willing to go somewhere else, you're never going to get a good price. Like I love Steve, and I think I bought every car through Steve, but if he knows I have to go to him, and he knows I can't go anywhere else, so he's honest, he wouldn't do this, but he can charge whatever he wants. Yeah. If I only have one place to go, and then the last is I have to actually be paying something, or at least be able to save money if I choose to go somewhere else, right? Like
there's got to be skin in the game paying for you.
Right. Yeah, and so it can be done. It's just there's a lot of market incentive not to do that, right? There's a lot of money being made. Well, not doing that.
On the drug thing, there's videos I've seen all over the internet that said if independent pharmacists have come out and talk about this. The national companies won't, I guess. But for some reason, if you mention insurance, then that immediately jacks up. In many cases, you're paying more for your deductible than you would had you just bought the doggone drug, and you don't know that.
Right.
The copay.
Yeah, the copay. Yeah. So is that true?
I actually
it certainly can't.
I had it happen one time. I had it happen one time. I forgot what it was, and it was I don't remember what the prescription was, but it was like I had an infection in my eye or something like that, and the doctor prescribed some prescription. So I go to the pharmacy, and I was in a hurry, and I was headed out of town, and they go, well, the insurance company hasn't said it's okay yet. And I said, okay. I said, I'll just buy it. How much is it? $6.37. Well, my copay was $35.
Right.
So I paid $6.37 or 35 cents or whatever it is.
That's
and
craziness.
No, I would have paid $35 had I let the insurance.
No, it's very confusing. most drugs are bought through these organizations called pharmacy benefit managers, PBMs.
One of the times you were on here, I had not heard of this. You opened my eyes to that, and I did some research on that. What a scam!
It is absolutely one of the biggest scams ever. So it used to be they're almost like, think of them as a wholesaler of drugs, right? They buy the drugs from the drug companies, okay? And it used to be a very efficient model back 20 or 30 years ago. They would buy it, sell it to the insurance companies, high volume, low margin, almost like the Sam's of drugs. Well, then Congress made them. There's things called kickbacks in medical that are illegal, get you in jail. If a doctor does a kickback, if a hospital does a kickback for referring business out, they'll go to jail because it's illegal to take that kickback. It's under the table. And well, there's a safe harbor provision you can look it up, safe harbor provision for PBMs that allows them to do this. So it allows them to kick back.
They call it a rebate, don't they?
A rebate, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a rebate sounds better, but it's a kickback.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what they call it.
They won't tell you what it is, so it's a kickback.
Yeah.
I guess it's a rebate because it's legal.
Yeah.
It's a kickback. It should be. Yeah. So, but what has happened over the last, I guess, 20 years since that got put in place is all the PBMs, the 3 big PBMs that control 85% of the market and the 5 big insurance companies, they're now all cross-owned. So they're getting rebates from themselves. And shockingly, instead of 2 or 3% rebates, they've gotten to 40, 50, 60%. And the nefarious thing is, like, when I'm looking at what I pay, like as a commercial, we have 200 employees, as a commercial payer, when you look at what you're paying for your drugs, that's before rebates. So it's kind of like the MSR, right? Like, so, we paid $600,000 for your drugs this year. Well, they got $200,000 in rebates, but they're going to act like the insurance company is going to act like they paid $600,000, and then they're going to mark that up 20%,
right?
Even though they really only paid $400,000 for it.
Yeah.
And it's just basically but we get the insurance, or we get the model that we design. This has been designed by very smart people to make a lot of money.
To maximize profits.
To maximize profit. And I don't have look, the free market works phenomenal. It has brought more people out of poverty. If you ever listen to Milton Friedman, it has literally brought more people out of poverty, increased people's standard of living, brought fresh water to the world. I mean, it's just done so much. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this is anything but free market, right? It is manipulated market.
When you have the government,
yep.
when you convince the government to put laws in place to limit to where it's a free market, but I have these protections and that protections, it's no longer really a free market.
Yeah, and one of the things I tell Republicans this all the time, and I would tell Democrats as well, but look, Republicans too often think of themselves as pro-business. I am not pro-business. I am pro-free enterprise, pro-free market. If you have a business and it's a monopoly, I'm not pro that.
Yeah.
In fact, monopolies really have to be governed by government, kind of by definition. They're the only, I'm a low regulation person, but a monopoly, particularly an incredibly necessary monopoly, has to be regulated somewhere because human nature doesn't regulate themselves.
Exactly.
Right? Like it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And it is much easier. It's kind of like if you look at the free market areas, TVs, we're in MacBook, like computers, not a ton of regulation that needs to be done there because it's an incredibly competitive market that has created incredible value, and now you have more computing power here because it's a fairly open market. And really where it hasn't been, and there are some areas where it's no longer competitive because the government has allowed acquisitions to crush innovation, right? And that's what you've seen, and that's what government has to do. If government will stop that market manipulation, innovation happens incredibly fast. As soon as we allow that to not happen, whether that's medical or whether it's computers, that innovation stops immediately because then I have revenue capture and profit capture.
Yep.
And so we got to understand the difference as Republicans between pro-business and pro-free enterprise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Pro-free enterprise creates incredible wealth and wellness for people.
You want to create the environment.
Yeah, just imagine we pay almost 20% of our GDP on health care. We should be closer to 10. What would most middle-class families do with an extra 10% of their income?
Buy stuff.
Buy stuff. But it wouldn't be at gunpoint, which it is now.
Yeah, and you'd buy more diverse stuff.
Right.
You wouldn't buy just
you wouldn't be forced to buy.
Yeah, exactly.
This.
So let's move into property tax a little bit here.
Absolutely.
I know we talked about I talked about the bills, the SB4 and SJR2. What's SJR?
Senate Joint Resolution.
Joint Resolution.
It's a constitutional amendment.
Okay.
So there's a House Joint Resolution, Senate Joint Resolution, and just like you end up having to pick one.
Okay.
It's really whichever one comes first. You have to pass both houses.
So some of the property tax...
It's a constitutional amendment, so it's something you'll vote on. If you see
exactly.
SJR or HJR, then you're going to vote on it.
So the property tax relief that has been put forth is not in place yet. It has to be codified by the
It has to be codified, yeah. I don't believe there's ever been a property tax cut that didn't get approved by the voters.
I can't imagine.
So, yeah, it'd be a little shocking if that doesn't get approved, but it does have to get approved because it's in the Constitution.
So tell us a little bit about what has come of those.
Well, basically, the state doesn't collect property taxes. Local governments collect property taxes, but what the state has done, because sales taxes increased pretty, Texas miracle is a real thing in terms of the sales tax increase. We haven't increased the rate, but the economy's been great, so sales tax have increased. So we've been able to, put more money into all the state needs, but then have also taken some of that sales tax revenue and bought down local property taxes. And we did again this year. We added $10 billion of the money that the state collected in sales tax. We said schools, because we do it through the school M&O, because that's one of the bigger ones, and we can basically we said you decrease your in two ways. We said, one, increase your homestead exemption to $140 for normal people to $200 for over 65. So we said this homestead exemption, but the schools still get the same amount of money. We hold them harmless. We take that $10 billion and divvy it out. The comptroller does, but we divvy it out, and then we also decrease the rate, I think 6.8 cents. So decrease the overall rate of just the M&O portion. So the rate goes down, and then the homestead exemption goes up, and that's where that $10 billion got spent. But it's funny, you look at the whole state budget now, we are spending 15% of our money on that budget, that tax cut, and others we've done before this, because this is not the first time we've done it. So there's now $51 billion of the $340 billion in state revenues that is going to buy down property taxes. Because
which is a tax cut.
It absolutely is a tax cut. But
even if you rent, it's a tax cut because the person who owns that property has to pay property taxes. Yeah. So it's basically everybody who resides in a dwelling on a piece of property. This is a tax cut.
And I know some of your listeners are going, tax cut nothing. I didn't get a tax cut. Look how much my property increased. And that is fair. The property is going to continue to go up in value. However, there are some limitations to local governments that we put in place, I think, 6 years ago. If the overall value increases by 3.5%, they actually have to decrease the rate or go to the voters.
Right.
Now, if your individual property increases by 10% and nobody else's did, then that's on you. But the overall, there is not, and really what it does is it takes away the incentive for the cities to just arbitrarily increase or artificially inflate values. Although I think most people tell me their properties are overvalued on the tax rolls, but wouldn't sell their home for that. So it's not really overvalued if you wouldn't sell your home for that.
Well, and the reality is until it's sold, it doesn't matter.
No, that is true.
That's until you realize it. So it's, we can talk all these numbers, but
I mean, I'd love to get rid of property taxes. I just don't know what's a better form.
The money's got to come from
it's got to come. I mean, do we want to? We're going to close down all schools. Yeah. What are we going to close down to do no property taxes? And if we do sales taxes, I mean, a lot of people that do that say you're going to do sales taxes. Well, I promise you, nobody is going to buy anything anywhere close to a border.
No. That would kill. It would absolutely kill my business.
No,
it would hurt your business pretty bad.
There's no way you're going to go pay, because it'd probably be 20% is what you would have to do. 20 to 22% is the numbers I see. And nobody's going. You're not going to shop at Walmart.
What you would do is you would make me an Oklahoma resident.
Yeah.
Or at least an Oklahoma business owner, because I would go right across the border and move Eddie Hill's Fun Cycles to Randlett, Oklahoma.
I've thought about putting our inventory in Oklahoma.
Yes,
because of the inventory taxes.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we pay. I mean, property tax. You pay property tax as a business owner as
end of year
fixed asset. Yeah, you pay almost 2%. You pay on your real estate. You also pay on your inventory. You also pay on your equipment.
Right.
And I mean, sometimes I'm like, I could do a warehouse in Oklahoma and then not pay the property taxes on it. I hadn't done that yet, but
wow,
yet. So there was some big property tax relief, healthcare relief. Were there any other major bills that you were kind of involved in?
I mean, those were, I guess, from my standpoint. We did the parental rights constitutional amendment. I think it's pretty cool. It puts in statute basically the right to raise your child. That already exists in case law, but nowhere in the Texas Constitution. I could talk about that, but I spent a lot of time on that. I think from my standpoint, that's probably we did a bill on school districts, allowing some of the school districts to get back into TRS, teacher retirement system, for healthcare. So that's the end of my big ones. I'm trying to think for the biggest schools. It really was a school session. Obviously, I was very involved, joint author of the parental choice bill, school choice bill, that obviously got a lot of focus. So that's in the process of being implemented, and that'll be available for parents to use, I guess, in the next school year. And so I think that got a lot. We did in Pub Ed. I was on Pub Ed as well, Public Education Committee. The Teachers' Bill of Rights. One of the things that most teachers say, yes, that everybody wants more money, but it's the lack of discipline in the classroom. Mm-hmm. We gave them a lot more ability to,
you were talking about
to
earlier.
do that. Mm-hmm. And really, I really believe, it's going to sound bad because I think we did a good job with the bill. They already had the ability to do that, but sometimes leadership doesn't allow it or doesn't encourage it or doesn't train it because there are some schools that have very difficult kids and they don't have discipline issues because they set a tone beforehand. We gave them more tools to do that, but also I think we need to just make sure they know they can.
Right.
Because there were no ability almost to do something for somebody less than 10. And the reality, it says, oh, what trouble can a 10-year-old cause?
Huh.
Or an 8-year-old? Well, you know what? If there's no you've never had a less than 10-year-old if you don't think they can cause and disrupt a classroom. And I think people are kind of tired of sacrificing the 20 for the 1. We want to help the 1,
exactly
but we're not going to allow the 1 to take away from the 20 anymore. We're not going to give them up and just but we have to stop that mentality that anything is allowed in schools. And
so what did HB 6 specifically do? It said provide public schools with more flexibility in disciplining and disrupting violent students.
Well,
can they get rid of people?
They can send them to alternative, easier locations easier.
So they still have to have an alternative campus, but they can't. You can't just say you're out of our school.
Oh no. Because again,
I think
we
you
don't
should
want
be able to. By the way.
Well, and I don't disagree. I mean, look, I'd love to see them where, if the problem is you pull the parent in there. I mean, I do a lot of work with CPS. Yeah. Like if you're not going to raise your kid at all, you need to be there with them.
Totally agree.
And there needs to be more parental, I'm all for parental rights, but with rights come responsibilities.
Parental consequences.
Yeah, parental consequences. And you don't get to just turn them over to the school and act like you don't have anything to do with it. That is, we don't need feral kids, and we certainly don't need feral adults. And so there needs to be responsibility put on the parent as well. It did allow it to be done, and I can't remember the exact rules, but the under 10, you really couldn't even pull out of the classroom. And so that I think was a whole. Most of it, I think, is just a signal of like, hey, times have changed. Because some of it is cultural. Like everybody thinks a law needs to be changed. Literally, if you have schools already handling discipline issues, unless they're breaking the laws are already good enough. So I don't know that there was a ton substantial. I think it was more of a signal that, hey, you can discipline kids, and a reminder almost. But there were a couple, and again, the under 10 I think was the biggest, allowing them to do that. It also allows them specifically, I think, to keep them out of the classroom longer.
Right. I will tell you, as my youngest daughter is a behavior specialist in Plano ISD.
Right.
So she works downtown, and you talk about, and she deals with a lot of the kids she deals with are the younger ones. And yes, you can have some children that are under 10 that can be extremely disruptive.
And I'm just curious, in that case, is Plano being a upper class overall, is it a class thing? I mean, is it based on their income? What are these kids? Where are these kids coming from?
I don't get specific about it, so I don't know the
I'd be
answer to
curious.
that.
I'm just, because it's not always the low-income kids. That's what I think that's an assumption.
Generally, I will say that, but generally, the lower your income, the more likely you are to have
some issues. But still, I just wonder, though, if
it's not a race thing. That's the difference.
No.
A lot of people think it's race. It's not a race thing. It's a have and have not thing. Yeah. That's the disparity in learning, the disparity in discipline, the disparity in all that sort of thing. It has nothing to do with the color of your skin. Yeah.
No.
It has
sometimes
to do
the discipline to earn the discipline that gets you ahead in life is also the same discipline to discipline your kids.
Exactly.
It's also the same discipline. The expectations are different. I mean, we adopted a 9 and 11-year-old out of CPS, and we still kind of laugh with them of them going from one situation of zero discipline, zero expectation, looking about 5 minutes ahead and no longer, to a situation where they're expected a lot more is expected of them. That soft bigotry of low expectations. When parents expect nothing of their kids, when schools expect nothing of their kids, that's a problem.
Absolutely.
It's a problem. And we need to expect more.
I've had several rants over the years about that. It's quit treating people because they're a different color that they're less than and less capable.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
I think
drives
you could
me
just
nuts.
stop with, you've had several rants over the years.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we better wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've gone we're a little long, but hey,
Long-winded.
That's
It was
okay.
great information. It was really great.
All right, well then, we want to thank everybody.
Yep. Thanks, James Frank. Thanks, Steve Garner, for being here. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Next week, David Spiller will come in, and he's going to be our next week's guest.
David's a great guy.
I imagine you guys work very well together on things.
And he does a great. We work on different issues, because he's a lawyer and he works. He's worked a lot on the border and on immigration and some other things that he'll be able to talk to you about. I always vote with him on those issues, and he always votes with me on healthcare and other. Everybody has their areas that they work on. You vote on everything, but you work deeply on. I worked on pub ed and all the stuff we've talked about. But David's a very, very sharp guy.
Real quick before we go on, because I want to ask him the same thing and just kind of see what your answers are. Was there anything that you thought, this is a big, if this bill passes, it could be a really big bad thing, and I need to be sure to get behind stopping a bill?
Well, no.
Did you have any of those this session?
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, the nice thing about having a governor, a lieutenant governor, and a speaker that are all conservative, you're not going to have that. I mean, there were a couple bills that I didn't love. I mean, I did think the hemp bill went a little too far. And so I would have rather had the governor say something during session, and then we could have handled it without a special. But I'm glad we're going back and looking at it. I do think it needs to be done, but, and so there's tweaks to some of those bills. I've voted for the Hollywood incentives, but I wouldn't have done that much. But that was a huge, But those aren't horrible bad bills.
So that's what I'm asking, because there are times, I know specific industries sometimes. In our industry, we had a bill that was going to be a massive effect on our industry, and so we had to stop that bill. And it was one of the unintended consequences type things.
Well, and I think one of the things you realize is that it is much easier to kill a bill than to pass a bill. Mm-hmm. So I think you said 8,600 bills filed, 1,200 pass. That's a little overstated because it's House and Senate, and sometimes you're filing the same bill. So maybe there's 6,000 unique bills.
I didn't count on myself. I was pulling a report. Yeah.
But I'm saying maybe there's 6,000 unique bills filed and 1,200 passed. It's a lot easier to kill a bill, but you can only kill a bill if you're paying attention.
Right.
There's only 140 days that you got to really pay attention to the state legislature to make sure they don't do something bad to you. Yeah. But if you're not paying attention,
miss out.
And if you don't say something, we can't know.
Thanks again for everybody being here. We'll catch you next week. Next Friday at 7:30, we go live, and David Spiller will be here at 8. And
I want to thank, of course, brought to you by Eddie Hill's Fun Cycle, 401 North Scott, MacTech Solutions. We're here, and thanks for doing local business, doing business with local people. And I guess we'll be back, like you said, next Friday, 7:30. We always enjoy having our guests, and we appreciate y'all taking the time and doing all that work that you don't get paid a whole lot for that 140 days.
That's all right. I like it that way.
But that's okay.
You don't join the Texas legislature to be your full-time gig because you can't live off of what you get paid for.
No, so. But that's all right. It's good. It really, I always say we're the smartest F student. I get frustrated. I don't think we do it well, but I'm not sure how to set it up better. Yeah. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem very intelligently set up.
Maybe disperse the power a little bit. I think there's a little too much power concentration.
Yeah.
In certain committee chairs and the speaker and the governor and I think there's a little bit too much concentrated power, but that's the only thing I would think would change.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, hey, we're going to wrap it up.
That's right.
And thanks for y'all joining us. Tell your friends, share this, whatever. And I guess as Mike always said,
we'll see
you down the road.
You'll make this rather snappy, won't you? I have some very heavy thinking to do before 10 o'clock.